And East Africa wakes up to a somber moment upon the demise of former Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa. This was announced by President John Pombe Magufuli, who's called upon the Tanzanians to remain calm at this particular trying moment. We indeed, of course, send our condolences right here, TV47, to the people of Tanzania, the East African fraternity at large, and the family of Benjamin Mkapa. As we proceed, welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela. It is time for Morning Cafe. We have so much in store for you. It's a Friday edition. Also, Matters Entertainment are waiting you, so you can be rest assured that we got you covered this beautiful weekend, because then we're going to start it on a very good note. It's always a pleasure to have you joining us and interacting with us. Tell us what music you'd want us to play for you. Nancy got you covered, of course. It's a disc joke affair, or a disc joke moment. It's going to be an interesting one as we battle it out, and we have all about music. So that's why I say the ground is all open for you to call in and tell us what music you want us to play for you. The numbers will be rolling down on your screen. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela, TV47. Of course, our Twitter handles. That's where you can drop your requests, and I'll be sampling them and proceed to award them to Nancy so that you can have the music played for you. Karibu once again, and let's keep the ball rolling, as research has now shown that cases of home violence has escalated by 7% as compared to last year's, with 6 counties, among them Wajir, Turkana and Nanti, recording an increase of 30 since COVID-19 was reported in the country. Now, the Health CAS Dr. Masig Mungangi yesterday said that nearly 5,000 rape survivors in the country have received treatment, with children under the age of 18 years amounting to 70%. This comes at a time when 796 new positive COVID-19 cases have been reported in a single day.
The Ministry of Health has urged Kenyans to be each other's keeper so as to see cases of domestic violence in the country come to an end, following an increase of 7% as compared to last year. Close to 5,000 rape survivors have received treatment in various healthcare facilities during the COVID-19 period.
Some counties, particularly Wajir, Turkana, Kisii, Nandi, Lamu, Homa Bay and Kisumu, have recorded a 30% increase in cases of violence since the beginning of the pandemic. Worse still, and this really is a shocking statistic, close to 5,000 rape survivors have received medical treatment in health facilities during this period of the pandemic.
At the same time, Kenya has recorded the highest number of COVID-19 cases in a single day. 796 people tested positive for the virus, with 89% of them being asymptomatic. 378 others have been discharged after recovering.
Out of the 6,754 samples tested in the last 24 hours, we have 796 people having tested positive for this disease. And this brings the total number of positive cases in the country to 15,601, pushing our cumulative sample size so far tested to 200,061,027. While we do have the 796 cases reported today, 89% of them are asymptomatic.
Unfortunately, 3 people have succumbed to the virus, bringing the death toll to 263 since the first case was reported.
Sadly, we've lost 3 patients from the disease, bringing our total fatality to 263. And in aggregate form, we stand at around 1.7 case fatality in the country.
While Kenyans have been urged to immediately visit healthcare facilities once they sense they are unwell, Dr. Kefa Ombacho has insisted on the importance of responsible disposal of used face masks.
We are advising that the best disposal point would be a pit latrine. Just have it in a container, dispose it in a pit. You will not give it a chance to anybody to use. But in the urban situation, this waste is supposed to be disposed in such a way that there is no way out a second party will be able to access the mask.
Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Now, many counties could soon be plunged into a cash crisis after senators yesterday failed to reach a consensus on the county revenue share formula. This is the fourth time the senators have failed to agree on the matter, and now the Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka is on the hot seat after a section of senators threatened to impeach him for ending yesterday's meeting or special sitting illegally.
Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka will have to apologize to senators or else get impeached. This is after he abruptly adjourned a special sitting he had called to deliberate on the divisive county revenue share formula that was proposed by Commission on Revenue Allocation. Lusaka adjourned the sitting after the mover of motion failed to show up in the House.
Order members, I'm therefore directing that the House adjourns until Tuesday, 28th July 2020.
The senators angrily objected the adjournment, expressing dismay at the lack of commitment by the House Majority Leader Samuel Pogisio and the Senate Finance Committee chaired by Charles Kibiro to end the stalemate.
Kwa hiyo hili tunamwambia Bwana Spika, ukome, usiregelee kitu kama hichi tena, na ikibidi ikiwa wewe mwenyewe kitu cha kwanza ikifika Jumanne hutaomba msamaha, nasikitika sisi tutachukua hatua kama bunge la Senate kukuachisha kazi.
Na iwapo hataweza kurekebisha uendeshaji wake wa hili bunge la Senate, basi nina uhakika mimi kwa muda utakaokuja Spika anaweza kutupa nje kwa sababu hafuati kanuni na sheria za nchi.
We are warning Speaker Lusaka. If he doesn't follow the law, we are going to impeach him. We are going to discuss his conduct because the conduct of the Speaker today is unbecoming. And I can repeat it. I am prepared to lose my position as a whip of the Senate. But I cannot stand that sort of thing because it is a mockery of all these good people.
On the other hand, senators whose counties stand to lose insist Senator Charles Kibiro-led committee should go ahead and implement the recommendations by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja that the counties continue to receive monies as per the previous formula until consensus is reached.
We shall also bring another motion on the same. Because our counties need to budget, our counties need to get resources, and we need to make sure that this us versus them idea or notion that is being peddled around stops. This country is for all of us, from Habaswein to Migori, from Kwale to Turkana, and we are going to protect it and emerging senators not to just look at their counties, but at the entire country.
Ni lazima tukuje na formula ambayo kaunti zote zitafaidika, Kakamega ikiwemo. Lakini mimi kama seneta wa kaunti ya Kakamega sitaunga mkono nikiona kaunti kama kina Kwale, Kilifi, Mombasa wakipoteza na kaunti ya Kakamega pekee yake inafaidika.
On the other hand, senators representing counties that were set to receive more cash under the third generation formula urged that the revenue share must be pegged on human population rather than land mass.
We should not be punished for having population. Do you want us to kill our people? Do you want our women to remove homes so that they don't bear more children so that we can be given more money? It is not a mistake to be given more money. What the counties that they perceive they are losing in courts should do is try another alternative way of bridging the gap of not losing. But on this one, we must give money to the people, not to anything else.
Senate Majority Leader Samuel Pogisio has decried that the matter has been politicized, making it more difficult to resolve. Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kangata defended Speaker's move to adjourn Thursday's special sitting.
See, politics is coming in, and it's overriding the formula. And so I just want us not to bring in people who are not members of the Senate. If there is influence from this side, that means all this push must also be influenced.
Crisis in the Senate continues over which formula to be used to share the 16.5 billion shillings to the 47 counties. Now a section of senators saying won't allow not even a coin to be lost in any county. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Palm Buildings, Nairobi.
Well, and that very story by Elizabeth Butuko is a story that we've been capturing for the better part of last week, but when? And the big question is, why is it so hard for us to get a solution to this? This even as governors complain that there's a lot of standstill at the level of the counties, courtesy of this. So, of course, we loop in the newspaper review guest this morning, Nelly Chepkemoi, who's a youth advocate, joining us to expound found some more on what, of course, we also have on the newspapers. Away from that, we see there's so much that has been captured in the People Daily. That's the newspaper that we'll be going through this morning. The front page, there's so much so. Equally, the same has been captured. Senators defy Uhuru Raila as revenue standoff persists. That has been captured extensively on page 5. And crossing over to it as we loop in Nelly. Good morning, Nelly.
Good morning.
You're well?
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you too for finding time for us. And counties on edge over revenue sharing in per se, as the senators for the 4th time failed to debate a pass the contentious formula, further delaying release of money to devolved units. What does this speak? Where does it place us? Where does it place devolution?
I mean, what I'd say is that the senators have every right to protect the county's interest, you know. So I feel like they should just come to a consensus that doesn't divide them, and, you know, because so that we also don't experience delays in the release of funds to the development units, because the more they keep on arguing, the more the delay of the release of the funds.
The stalemate, Nelly, is simply because, yes, the senators are, or so to speak, are trying to defend or to protect their own respective counties based on the formulas that have been presented. So one would argue then that, yes, they are doing that. But just the question is, how much of an interest are do they have, on matters devolution? Because when you look at a situation or a scenario where, you know, every senator is protecting their own, county, or every senator is looking at the interest of, you know, the county that they fall in the same group, then it leaves a lot to be desired on the question of course, devolution. And now the coming in of the key leaders, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Right Honorable Raila Odinga, should they always be there for us to solve some of these issues? Why is it so hard?
So again, I feel that this revenue sharing should also not be politicized, because, well, you know, the stalemate here is that the stake is so high. It is a serious matter that doesn't need to be politicized. So I feel like we always don't need them always. Like, we try to imagine of having to deal with issues without involving these two people. So I feel like the Senate should just act independently and come to a consensus about the issue. It is about equality and in the revenue sharing.
All right, we discuss some more on that as we proceed. Before you came in, Nelly, I had captured a report, or my team had worked on a report on basically what was declared yesterday by CAS Mercy Mwangangi in regards to the rape cases that we have in the country so far, courtesy of COVID-19, and the rise is pretty much unfortunate. Speaking of about 5,000 or so, girls are being raped at this particular time. It's pretty much unfortunate, but such is the case in our homes, such is the case in the society. What does this mean? Where are we headed as a society? I mean, how best can we deal with COVID-19 so we can run away from this? Because I always say that these are shadow pandemics. There's so much that has been happening. We are focused on dealing with COVID-19, but we not look at the underneath troubles or problems that come along with that.
So what I'd say about that is COVID-19 has brought a lot of issues. So we must also not keep quiet about other issues despite dealing with the pandemic. So it is so unfortunate that we are having girls being defiled and raped outside here. It is so unfortunate we are having women being beaten all over. I would personally condemn it. It is not right. As a society, it is not right. I don't feel it is right, and the government and the Ministry of Health should come in handy and at least work on this so that we have no more cases about this.
All right, let's cross over to a different story altogether as we come and look at some more in the newspaper. And now, Nairobi County Assembly Speaker Beatrice Elachi has vowed to reject the restatement of Jacob Ngwele as the County Assembly Clerk. This even as the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission cleared him of accusations of being irregularly appointed in office after Elachi wrote a letter to EACC citing that she wanted him investigated. Ngwele has been out of office since November 2019, as Mumbi Chege reports.
Despite the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC finding the manner in which Nairobi County Assembly Clerk Jacob Ngwele was appointed satisfactory, the County Speaker Beatrice Elachi stands firm that any attempt to have him back in office is unlawful. While speaking to the media at her City Hall office, Elachi made it clear that the recruitment process for Ngwele's replacement is already complete.
So I want to plead that let us respect what the court has said. Let us finalize. Let us stop this intimidation because you have done this. You are not taking the person they want. Now they come and intimidate. They come and force things. It is wrong. And I want to tell Kenyans, I want to thank them that indeed I have stood with many things firm, not because I would love, but because of the integrity of this institution. And for me, the day I would leave, I need to leave an institution that moves in a correct manner. Therefore, I want to tell one Jacob Ngwele, you are in an office in the assembly as a visitor. You need to be leaving. First of all, they've jumped on top of the gate, completely disregarding the issue of COVID, which is very wrong. And I want to tell them it is wrong. When we decided and we followed what the head of public service told us, that we must start going virtual. I announced to them, and I read very well, let us leave the assembly because of COVID, let us go virtual, and let us try and protect ourselves and follow the regulations of the Ministry of Health.
Acknowledging the concerns surrounding the status of his employment, Ngwele has asked Elachi to respect the court ordered which has reinstated him in office, urging all parties involved to respect the rule of law.
We have had many orders which have been issued by the court telling the parties to obey the court orders. Of course, I've not been given access to my offices, despite the court orders directing that I resume my duties. I've had challenges resuming my duties, and it has caused a lot of problems to the members and the smooth running of the assembly. And after the letter from the EACC and the letter from the Central Bank reinstating my mandates, the members today called me as their servant to come back to work so that I can serve them. So I've come here today to serve the members whom I'm the CEO. I'm supposed to deliver services to this assembly. So I've come back to work today to continue delivering services. What I'm asking is that we live under the rule of laws in this country. If one person came back to work as a result of orders issued by the employment court, the same orders, the last time we were in court was on 20th July, the court stated status quo maintained. Status quo maintained means I'm still the clerk of the assembly as we resolve the matter in court.
Speaking on behalf of Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, the governor's spokesman Ben Mulwa weighed in on the matter, claiming that Elachi is representing cartels and her own personal interests.
The governor's message is extremely clear. Everybody must do whatever they are doing within the confines of the law. If there is any problem with the laws as they are, there are mechanisms that are already set in place on how you can review that. Then the speaker can take full responsibility and begin to run the assembly as a personal property. But as it stands, there are laws that govern county government, and the speaker remains bound by that. And until those laws are amended either by the Senate or the National Assembly, all the other things that she's treating Nairobians to remain theatrics that are of no value to anybody.
The Central Bank of Kenya has also confirmed the legality of Ngwele's appointment after turning down the request by Elachi to have him removed as a signatory of the Assembly's accounts. Mumbi Chege, TV47.
That's more before that. And coming back to you, Nelly, Speaker Elachi turns away clerk in spite of state agency clearance. The tussles in Nairobi are just out of this world. They continue to grow bigger and bigger by the day. If it is not the governor with the president or the national government, then it is the speaker, with the MCAs, the speaker with the clerks and all that. I mean, and according to Ngwele, he says that he's not leaving the office because he's the clerk of the county assembly. So this move by Elachi and that declaration by the courts, at what point then, because this would equally, straight away be regarded as contempt of court. But it looks like Elachi is pretty much confident with this particular move. And as of course Ben Mulwa would say, courtesy of the governor, and maybe this is because of, some political influence or high and mighty influence. I mean, really, is this the kind of politics that we should be playing day in, day out in Nairobi?
actually it is not the kind of politics that we really need. Plus, I feel there's a tendency in Kenya whereby leaders are not following court orders. So for me, I feel like Elash should just calm down and just follow the court orders, because clearly the guy has been cleared by the state agency. So she just needs to accept and they move on, because it is not right to just not follow court orders. It is not.
All right. Okay. Well, we also delve deep into that later on as we proceed with the broadcast. But let's go back to the numbers of COVID-19 right here in the country. And despite the rise of the COVID-19 curve, only 26 counties have so far met the target of 300 bed capacity. During the launch of the devolution report 2019-2020, health, agriculture and technology sectors were singled out as among sectors where services have been improved in the 47 counties. Joash Onsari reports on that one.
Were it not for the COVID-19 pandemic, Thursday's devolution conference was scheduled to be the 7th devolution conference. But only a few governors were allowed in the venue for the launch of the annual report on the performance of counties. A report that identified achievements and challenges faced by all the 47 devolved units.
For our chair of the COG to come and present before the country our speech on the state of devolution in Kenya.
The health sector was ranked as one of the sectors where services have been improved despite delayed payment of healthcare workers, among other challenges.
Currently, there are 4,318 doctors, 6,050 clinical officers, 26,767 nurses, and 18,789 of other health officers in county facilities. Current status is an improvement from the previous year, where we had a joint total of 7,894 doctors and clinical officers and 26,561 nurses.
With series of crises including locust invasion, floods and COVID-19, which have greatly affected the small-scale enterprises, the counties has set up fiscal nets in order to cushion the small-scale traders and the economy.
All county governments are in the process of consolidating their Biashara Fund to ensure support to micro and small enterprises to recover from the effect of the pandemic to the economy. This will lead to the support of approximately 2.3 billion Kenya shillings as loans to MSCs in county governments.
Speaking during the launch of the report on the performance of the counties, Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa said they have collaborated with different stakeholders in and out of the country to strengthen industrialization in the country.
I was very, very pleased just yesterday. We had a virtual meeting with almost 15 counties. This is under the IDEAS, the EU-sponsored IDEAS program, where we have various projects across 15 counties that are impacting greatly in terms of improvement of our food security. And some of the counties that we're able to engage with, we have already visited. Kisii County, where we have the banana factory. We visited Kisumu County, and Professor Nyong'o is here. We're very, very pleased to see the dairy plant that is under construction in Kisumu. We were able to visit West Pokot to see the abattoir there.
In the process of combating the spread of COVID-19 in counties, COG Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya noted that 26 counties so far have attained the 300 ICU bed capacity, and many measures have been put in place in combating the spread of coronavirus. The COG Chair urging the Senate to speed up the process of county revenue allocation.
On county preparedness towards emergency response and management of COVID-19, counties have made the following progress. 1, a cumulative total of 11,934 isolation beds across all the 47 county governments. 26 counties have attained isolation facilities with 30-bed capacity. 300-bed capacity. 20 counties are working towards putting in place 300 beds by the end of the stipulated period of 30 days.
Formation of rapid emergency committees in all counties is one of the achievements in the last 1 year of devolution. Embu Governor Martin Wambora and Kisumu's Anyang' Nyong'o are among governors who attended the conference.
Well, the conference that we covered comprehensively yesterday is captured on page 6 of the People Daily. 20 counties yet to meet a 300-bed capacity target, and also looking forward to that meeting where they will be having a conversation with President Uhuru Kenyatta just to review on how far we've been successful or how far we've done in terms of, dealing with COVID-19 at the county levels, and also just picking up the number 796 was recorded yesterday, the highest number ever to be recorded in a day. That is from samples that were conducted. That is 6,754 samples, and raising the number or the bar to 15,601. This is pretty much unfortunate, Nelly. And also just looking at also the front page of the People Daily, you find that there's some guidelines that have been presented on how best we can get our students go back to school, and coming with stringent measures, guidelines to ensure that we reopen. Amid all these guidelines, the numbers continue to go up. Amid all these guidelines, it's clear that the counties need so much more in terms of how best they can deal with COVID-19. What do you make of this?
We continue to see the numbers rising every day. So there's a summit coming up with the governors and the president. I feel they should balance between lives and livelihoods, and also direct a legislation, I guess, on prescribing severe penalties to the offenders of the safety rules. Again, I feel like the government should come in handy and also assist the county governments by having a social safety net to cushion the poor Kenyans. Now that we are seeing the COVID numbers rising, some people and analysts and other medics have been saying that we are yet to reach the peak, but we are almost reaching the peak. So I feel the government should come with a social safety net to cushion our Kenyans from the pandemic.
All right, that's more like it. The numbers right here, 20 counties yet to meet COVID bed capacity. That's pretty much unfortunate of a report. An accumulative 11,934 isolation beds across the 47 counties or devolved units out of 26 have attained the threshold. So we take a look at what will be happening later on Monday in the event that the intergovernmental review session will be held. That is alongside President Uhuru Kenyatta and the governors of the 47 counties in regards to dealing with COVID-19, just presenting that report and, getting us to that point where we'll know whether we should change or tact or we should maintain the same and put more capacity and put more budget or more money towards ensuring that that happens. That one has been captured right here. And coming back to page 4, also on matters education and what it is that the education CS or the ministry expects that will be attained in most of the schools, so at least we can have our students go back to school. Just to give you a sneak preview of what, of course, these proposals are. Schools to place desks 1 meter apart to ensure that social distancing is observed. That is, one washroom should serve maximum of 30 boys or 25 girls, and learners and teachers should wear face masks all time. It will be an offense for learners to share personal items such as textbooks, sleepers, shoes, and clothes. Non-teaching staff, including cleaners, cooks, watchmen, matrons, and messengers, should be equipped by PPEs or with PPEs. That is talking about face masks, gloves, and boots. Cooks should have requested food handling certificates and be screened for COVID-19 symptoms on a daily basis before being allowed to handle the food. Parents likely to be asked to dig deeper to meet the cost of the new requirements. And there will be no events such as career and motivation days, among others. The counties should put up and equip a health facility within a 10 kilometers radius of a learning institution and assign medical personnel for regular monitoring and sensitization. We get to ask whether indeed as a country we are able to achieve that, but we can only hope for the best. That aside, former Health Cabinet Secretary Cleopa Mailu now says he didn't see any contacts or contracts, sorry, on the equipment list to the 47 counties, though he signed them during his tenure. Contracts which saw counties parting with millions of shillings yearly, despite some equipment lying idle in their respective counties.
Appearing before the Senate ad hoc committee probing the medical equipment services projects worth the billions of shillings, Mailu says he wasn't responsible for the variations made to the payment by counties from 95 million to 200 million shillings yearly.
Honorable Senator, I did not come across that figure, and that figure was not brought to my attention. If at all, it was there during my time, and that figure was not brought to my attention by the accounting officer, and therefore I cannot speak with authority in terms of that variation.
During the grilling session, Dr. Mailu said he didn't see the contract papers, even though the paper showed he had appended his signature.
When I say I never saw the document, I might have signed the letter, of course, which I want to believe was drafted, and I want to believe the contents might be correct, to transmit to the National Treasury. And that doesn't mean I saw the contracts.
Mailu has asked the Senate ad hoc committee probing the MES project to question the ministry processors, claiming he found the concept being implemented by the government.
When I came to the ministry, my responsibility was to ensure any contract obligation which was to the ministry and to the government, we continue to implement those contracts consistent with what was obtaining in the ministry. And therefore, mine was not to go back and re-examine the contracts which were signed previously, my predecessors. And I want to believe this committee can get appropriate answers from my colleagues who were there in the ministry before.
Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
All right, this in regards to Martha's corruption, that was conducted some years back when Cleopa Mailu was at the helm as Cabinet Secretary for Matters Health. And Nelly, coming to you, this is the case. And, the sad reality is that amid all reports, amid this appearance at, Senate committees or even in courts, this will just go in rounds. And maybe, just maybe, we might not be able to get proper answers in regards to this.
Okay, so first of all, the fact that life was and is going on normal despite all these reports about the leasing project, someone is left to wonder, what really are these leaders doing to speak about this issue? So I feel like all these issues should be made accountable to everyone. The people who were leased the project should come out clean and be accountable for the leasing project and the medical kits that they were leased. So I feel like this whole issue should be accounted for.
All right, and do you foresee a situation? Well, it's all what everyone else feels, but the question is, what is the guarantee? Just how much are we capable of dealing with corruption in the country? The other day, or the latest, very many people in a way celebrated as a step towards the right direction was Waluke's case. And for the very first time, we see a big person, with a big fish, so to speak, facing it rough. And, still also there's some people who came on board to condemn that and terming it as political witch hunt based on, the side that Waluke supports. But the question is, just how genuine are we? And at what point are we going to be successful when we are all, double speaking about this whole affair of dealing with corruption?
The whole issue of corruption is a big issue in Kenya, but I feel this government or the state agencies meant to tackle corruption in the country should make them accountable, and if it means seizing the properties, just to get to the bottom of the matter. Otherwise, if they don't get to the bottom of the matter about corruption, then it means all these state agencies are just left but toothless bulldogs. So everything should just be accountable for in order to reach the expectations of fighting the corruption in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, according to you, what would be the missing link? For the longest of time, shots fired at the judiciary, shots fired at the courts on how they've dealt with issues to do with corruption. But according to you, based on the complaints that the courts have staged in terms of interference by the executive and all that, who genuinely does not want us to successfully deal with corruption in the country, according to you?
We can't say specifically who, but there's also the feeling of hidden agendas when it comes to matters of corruption. Some people, I feel, are trying to protect their people in courts, so as I feel there are hidden agendas still in fighting corruption in Kenya. Yeah.
All right, and crossing over to some more on this one, we have still so much captured here on the People Daily. Let's take a look at some bit of what has been captured again. We've looked at that, and maybe just try and cross over to what we'll find as the cartoon edition. I don't know why we're not able to get a hold of this. And yes, the cartoon edition of the day. Forward March NASA, how? And here we are, we're talking about some bit of politics, the NASA politics, the Tanga politics, the Jubilee politics, but the cartoon edition hugely speaking about what we witnessed today in regards to the NASA coalition, the four principles right there, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, and Amani coalition leader, that is Mudavadi. And it seems like they are all taking a different direction, all looking at a different direction. And, it's pretty much of some bit of a confusion. In your own capacity, would you say that they are just trying to hide in so much, but in real sense, NASA is dead?
Of course, it is clearly evident NASA is dead, and I feel the thing that is going on right now is about realignments. Just the other day, yesterday, the ODM people were saying that they are looking for endorsements from the president. Although I feel it is too early to start making coalitions and realignments 2 years prior to the election. So it is just evident NASA is dead. So what people are trying to do is to form realignments in order to get votes for the next poll.
All right. Well, and still on that, still away from that, there's been a piece right here in regards to how the youthful leadership have misbehaved, or so to speak, and citing Sakaja's apology, which raises questions on accountability. I don't know whether you were able to take a look, or follow up the events of what happened. That is over the weekend, and the arrest of Sakaja and coming to his apology, and him saying that he's going to resign from the Senate committee that is dealing on matters COVID-19. And up until this particular point, you are a youth advocate. What do you make of the youth leadership as it stands today? Do you suppose we've been well represented? Is there something that is lacking, and how do we get to fix that?
So about the issue of Honorable Sakaja, I feel it was right of him to accept the mistake that he did publicly, and he apologized. Again, he went to court. He accepted the penalties that were given to him, and then also the fact that he also resigned from the ad hoc committee as chair. I think, to me, that was quite good, because it is not so often that you get a Kenyan leader just accepting the mistake and apologizing, and even going ahead and resigning from a committee or from a post that he was given in parliament. So I feel according to Sakaja, it was quite a good show of leadership that should be emulated.
All right, and we cross over to Kirinyaga County, where Waiguru now writes to Kibichu, linking him to her political wars. We know that, it's not been an easy road or time for Anne Waiguru, who's the governor of Kirinyaga County. First of all, the battles that are mated against her by the MCA as well, in what they term as, a person, or they look at her as a person who's gone against, the virtues of her office, at some point in time successfully, getting to impeach her at the level of the county, but proceeding proceeding to the Senate, she was vindicated. And right now we are having tough times on the budgeting at the level of the county, on operations at the level of the county, as the MCAs have vowed to make it so hard for Waiguru to successfully man the activities at the level of the county. Now, Waiguru reads differently into this, and she does not see the tough times that are meted upon her by the MCAs, but what she sees or what she smells is political witch hunt, and she's gone direct to fire shots at PS Karanja Kibicho. That is the interior PS. So the PS at some point in time came out to say that he does not have anything against Waiguru. He's not tried to instigate any negativity at the level of the county. But it looks like Waiguru is not in agreement to this.
Although back in Kirinyaga, I think what is going on between Waiguru and PS Kibicho is all about superiority. That who gets to be the kingpin of Kirinyaga. So it is a battle of superiority between the two, and whoever will win might also be winning the hearts of the people of Kirinyaga. So I feel like this is a battle of superiority in Kirinyaga.
Because honestly, it's about the people, like you rightfully put it. When you look at these tussles, when you look at these troubles that we're talking about, it's technically the people that suffer. Even looking at the next story that has been captured, state to recover assets linked to NYS suspects. This is something that, Waiguru has been, of course, also been termed as one of the key figures that have messed the NYS activities at the NYS. We also have a story right here on NHIF staff who vanished to record a statement. Still revolving around corruption, graft, and fleecing of the taxpayers' money. At what point will the taxpayer be able to enjoy the fruits of paying taxes and having the taxes work for the benefit of the taxpayer?
This is why we keep on fighting for the youths in leadership. We keep on fighting to get youthful leadership that is progressive and has a vision for the people of Kenya. So as it stands, we've always seen these leaders come with the same stories, go with the same stories. But I feel there should be a change in Kenya, whereby we have a youthful leadership that is more visionary, one that focuses on a people-centered service delivery.
All right. Well, that's interesting. And thank you so much, Nelly Chepkemoi, youth advocate, for the great insights that you've presented to us. Before we get to go, I'll leave you with a story on what is happening on the international scene, or better yet, something that is of interest to us. For the longest of time, the ICC has been labeled as a body that is against the African leaders, or against, the Africans that are presented to them. And, this has been an issue. And the likes of Bensouda being pointed fingers at of how much they failed the people of Africa in addressing the issues. We know very well that different African leaders have been presented to the ICC, and times have not been easy for them. Well, probably it's justified, but the argument is that there's been selective justice based on, leaders of Africa and also leaders from the other parts of the world. So civil societies led by friends of the ICC have come out to strongly oppose the process of replacing International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor, that is Fatou Bensouda. The lobbyists say that the process is fraudulent, and here is Andrin Kilemi, who gives us this particular report as we take a look at what next for Bensouda.
During a press briefing Thursday morning, Friends of ICC Kenya strongly opposed the idea of the International Criminal Court to replace the court's chief prosecutor Fatou Bensouda, claiming the process was not free and fair.
We share the sentiments of the Kenyan government on rejection of the candidates, precisely because of exactly what we are saying, that the process is flawed. One, it appears like, although we are not speaking for government, like the election committee is turning itself almost like a cartel to actually bring somebody who is supposed to do a certain duty.
4 candidates have been nominated to replace the current chief prosecutor. Among them are an Irish international lawyer, 2 Africans and 2 Canadians. Reports further indicated that the most likely candidate to replace Bensouda is the Irish lawyer who was in the front line defending victims of post-election violence.
The Irish candidate, who is the possible successor of Fatou Bensouda, the current prosecutor, looks like a clear coronation as opposed to a fair play in this game of having a new prosecutor. And therefore, we are calling for cancellation of the whole process and an institution of a new process that is more inclusive for all the state parties, rather than a skewed, stylish coronation of a single individual.
Reports further indicated that the most likely candidate to replace Bensouda is the Irish lawyer who was in the front line defending victims of post-election violence.
Utaratibu huu wa kumtafuta mrithi wa Bensouda urudiwe upya kwa sababu vile ulivyofanywa haukuhusisha mataifa husika kama inavyotakikana. Na ni jambo la kushangaza sana kwa sababu ukisoma ule mkataba wa Rome unaelezea kinagaubaga vile mtu ambaye atakuwa prosecutor wa ICC anatakikana achaguliwe, na ni kina nani wanatakikana wahusishwe, na ni kina nani wamefusu ama ni kina nani ambao wana ile tajiriba.
The elections are third in line after Moreno Ocampo and Fatou Bensouda served in the same positions. The two became household name in Kenya after 2007-2008 post-election violence cases were taken to the Hague-based court. Andrine Kilemi for TV 47.
Thanks, Andrine Kilemi. We follow up on that and we update you accordingly. On that very note, we take a short break. Remember, it's the disc joking edition, whichever way you want to call it. Nancy has it all covered for you on the entertainment section or segment that is later on. But first, we'll be taking a look at the current affairs. Just pick key points or key stories that we've captured, and just take a comprehensive look in regards to the same. And later on, we cross over to that segment. I think Thank you so much for keeping it right here. Remember, it's important that you interact with us. # Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47. The numbers rolling down on your screen. You can call us and weigh in on the subjects of discussion. After this break, we'll be right back with much more. All right, welcome back to Morning Cafe. Time for the current affairs segment. Important that I invite you to interact with us. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47. The number's rolling down on your screen, and you can as well call us or send us a message. We'll be sampling them as we proceed with the show. Joining me this morning is George Kamano, who's a philanthropist and politician, to expound some more on the subject that I have picked on. And we also have Steve Kijana, who's also a politician and a youth leader, also a chairperson or maybe the leader of a political party. I keep forgetting the name of the party. Steve will be telling us that as we proceed. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. So this morning we capture the aspect of reopening and the proposals that have been presented to schools that in the event that they want to reopen, this and this has to be done. If that is not going to be achieved, there's no way we're going to have some students in school or our students back in school. We also take a look at the scaring numbers that we have on matters COVID-19. Yesterday, for the very first time, we record the highest number of cases in a single day, and it's pretty much unfortunate. 796 is not a joke. It's something that gets us to that point where we need to get worried. Also take a look at the standoff that continues to persist in regards to the revenue sharing at the level of the counties, and also the cases of rape that have been mentioned to be on the rise. What is it that we're not doing right? How much of morals do we have at the level of the society? Or we ask, are our morals collapsed to that point? So, joining the discussion, important that you be part of it. So, gentlemen, before we delve deep into that, on a sad note, Benjamin Mkapa, that is former Tanzanian president, is dead. This, according to reports that were presented by President John Pombe Magufuli. Pretty much an unfortunate occurrence. But then again, I think I'll allow you to offer your condolences messages because it's pretty much important. We know how much. We're privy to how much of a contribution he's made towards East African integration and African integration at large, and so much more of making East Africa a better place. Hello? Do we?
Yes.
Yeah? Any of you can start?
Okay. I wish to pass my heartfelt condolences to the people of Tanzania for the loss of their president, Benjamin Mkapa. And it is a sad loss for them, considering that Benjamin Mkapa was a leader whom they held highly. And looking at his history, first of all, we remember that he handed over power very peacefully, and he oversaw a very peaceful transition in 2005. And he has been a person who has, I can call a Pan-African or a Pan-Africanist, because he has been very close to peace efforts around the region of Africa. And you remember that in 2008, post-election violence, he was one of the people who, together with Kofi Annan and the UN committee that was sent to kind of solve the truce that was there after the 2007 general elections. He was one of the key people who were able to mobilize the opposition and the perceived winner, who was Kibaki then. And you remember, on a light note about Benjamin Mkapa, he was also quite a hilarious individual. Yeah. You remember that he was also the person who told us about how they locked out William Ruto out of the discussion where, it is said that this William Ruto was not very cooperative, or he was not in for the peace deal. He still wanted, for continuation of the wars that were there, or he was not really ready for Nusu Mkate. So he was the person who also maybe lifted the lead on that story, and he was basically a peace lover, and I think Africa and Tanzania are going to remember him as a peaceful leader and one who was not greedy for power. And I think it sets a good example to African leaders who really want to extend their leadership and their position, their years in power, that you can still go for your 2 terms and still leave a legacy like Benjamin Mkapa. So may his soul rest in peace.
All right, Kabano.
Oh yes, my heartfelt condolences to the people of Tanzania. and also East Africans at large, because we have actually lost a very good leader. And as my friend has said, it's very hard for an African leader to actually successfully transition and give up power. And we just know that he was president for about 10 years, and after which he full-heartedly gave up a full transition, and it went very well. But we see also his ruling style was quite different compared to John Magufuli, who's a bit, how can I say, a bit very bossy and very authoritarian, but his other style was a bit different. And also he played a very crucial role, if you can remember, in 2007, because we were going through very hard times, and we needed such support, especially coming from our neighbors, people who know us, people who speak the same language. So I think he's a very great man, and he should be remembered throughout. And we should also observe mourning, just like Tanzania is doing for him.
All right, well, thank you. I hope I did not cut you short. There's some bit of... No. All right, okay, well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Indeed, condolences to the people of Tanzania, East Africa at large, Africa at large. We have lost our leader, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. That aside, coming to the discussions of the day, or the discussion of the day, and we start off with this one, the stalemate that is ongoing on matters, education, and whether indeed we're going to have our students going back to school. That declaration by by the Ministry of Education, that schools will resume in January the 21st, generally, apart from the technical institutions that have been given a leeway to resume in September upon meeting the regulations that have been set on board. This regulations extended to the lower sessions of education, that is the primary school, the secondary school, and we just take a look at the proposals that have been presented right here. And I don't know whether, gentlemen, you've had a chance to take a look at them. Let me just take you through that. We need places, schools to place desks 1 meter apart to ensure social distancing. One washroom should serve maximum of 30 or 25 girls. Learners and teachers to wear face masks all time. It will be an offense for learners to share personal items such as textbooks, slippers, shoes, and clothes. Non-teaching staff, including cleaners, cooks, watchmen, matrons, and messengers, be equipped with PPEs, including face masks, gloves, and boots. Cooks to have the requisitory food handling certificates and be screened for COVID-19 symptoms on a daily basis before being allowed to handle food. Parents are likely to be asked to dig deeper into their pockets amid all these tough times that we all know about. And counties should ensure that they put up and equip health facilities within a 10-kilometer radius of a learning institution, and assign medical personnel for regular monitoring and sensitization. The question is, yes, though achievable, just how much of capability do we have to ensure that all this works out? And is this a polite way of telling us that maybe we might not even have a chance to reopen come January 21st, because come January 2021, because we probably will not be able to achieve this?
Yeah.
Kamano?
First of all,
right.
I think that we are not prepared. I think now we're just groping at anything and just to try and maintain or control the situation. As we've seen, as we said before, COVID has been the great equalizer, and we've seen parents from both divides complaining about how things are expensive. We see people from, is it Braeside or Brookhouse? I think Brookhouse complaining about their fee. And we've also seen people from private schools all the way to public schools also complain about the fee. It tells you something about our economy. And also, as we see in our economy, the downturn has hit us, and we have said that we were going to have a reduction because our economic growth was about to be about 5%. Yeah, 5 to 6%, but right now it's going to probably be at 0 or 1%. So that tells you a lot about our economy, and also to the fact that so many people have lost their jobs. So many people have had cuts in terms of their salaries. It's very unsustainable right now, and our economy is very volatile. You see, so when you come and put up these measures, that means if you for one class, let's talk about the public schools. Is it sustainable? because if you can see, we don't even have enough classes. You know, children are still learning under trees, you know, and the very deplorable conditions in the classes. So now you're trying to tell me that now we can actually put some social distancing between the desks, and why we don't even have the classes to begin with. You know, if we don't have the infrastructure to start with, how are we going to meet what we're trying to talk about? You see, sometimes the problem with our government is that we use the top-bottom approach instead of the bottom approach. You see, we start working from things from the top, and instead of being very preventive, we are very reactive.
And that brings me to this question as I loop in Kijana. Are our leaders detached to the reality on ground? Because when you look at the proposals that are being presented, when you look at the realities on the ground, you just ask yourself, I mean, are they aware of, what it is that they're manning? Yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone, and they were arguing that Ministry of Health gives guidelines. Have they gone to the slums? Do they know the conditions of the slums? Have you ever walked into a slum, or maybe just stayed somewhere in a slum area and look at the activities in the evening, and how many people traverse or pass by? And you ask yourself whether indeed the leaders have an idea of what happens on the ground.
I have always had a problem with the utopian nature of our leaders. They tend to live in a very idealistic mind or state of mind, where they think that the guidelines they give are simply going to be followed just as they are. And that brings me back to something that a discussion that I was having with Japheth Kaluyu, who was the presidential candidate.
Yes.
And he was of the opinion that it is time the government really engages social scientists to really come and study what our people think, how is their situation, how is their social situation, how are they going to react to certain directives, do they have the capability to follow such guidelines. But I still believe that the guidelines by Professor Magoha are still idealistic and utopian, and they lack the realistic part of it, where, as George Kamanu said, we have this behavior or tendency of the government approaching things in a vertical way, where it is top down, where it is what they say is what they expect those at the bottom of that hierarchy to do. But I tend to believe that it should be a horizontal approach, where Magoha comes down, sits down with principals, and they communicate on what is the right way for the schools reopening. Of course, we don't dispute the fact that we need measures to control the spread of coronavirus even once we reopen, maybe in September for technical and January for the rest of the schools. Yes, we need those guidelines. We actually even need stricter measures to control and curb the spread. But are those measures realistic with the situation on the ground? And this is where Kenyans say that ground vision is different, because first of all, speaking about students not sharing a textbook, in our local technical institutions and even in our local schools, since the time even us, we were back there in school, we have always had that tendency of students sharing a textbook, because we do not have enough. And it is a fact that we don't have the necessary resources. And to be able to equip all those schools with the relevant resources is a responsibility that should be taken by government. But in this situation, it is very likely that that responsibility will land on parents. And as George Kamanu said, with the current state of the economy, our parents may not really have the ability to purchase some of these things. And that is why, even if we reopen with those guidelines, it will not be possible to really adhere to them. I looked at one of the universities. It is only, I think, one technical institution that has met those regulations so far. And none other yet, including some of the biggest universities in Kenya, like Kenyatta University, University of Nairobi. They are still yet to meet most of the requirements that are being given by the Ministry of Education. So I believe it is time Magoha comes down, sits down with the principals. Yes, we agree that we need the guidelines, but can they discuss how they are going to assist the parents, be able to adhere to most of these things, and of course the school.
All right, and now because we're still figuring out what next, and whether achievable or not, the biggest desire right now is to have our children go back to school. We can only wait to see whether indeed there's going to be a review of the same, or we go that way and we find or craft ways of ensuring that we successfully achieve this. Amid that, the biggest fear as to why we're not releasing our students to go back to school is because we are scared of how much, of course, the cases of COVID-19 would be spread so high. But even still, even as they are at home, even as a majority of people are working from home, even as, some of the Kenyans or majority of Kenyans are trying their level best to abide by the regulations that have been set aboard, the numbers continue to surge. The numbers continue to go high. The numbers continue to, paint a very unfortunate picture, Kamano. Where do we stand?
I think I said before, I was here before, and I said that I kind of believe about the herd mentality, where the herd mentality is where we let our immune system, fight the disease, and we let the younger generation, because herd mentality works when you have a much younger generation as opposed to the old, and the immune system of the younger shelters the older. So probably that's what the government had in mind, because we could not close our economy. You see, we've seen the adverse effects that it has had on us.
Aren't you scared that President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to declare the same, that we should proceed and go back where we are, or even close, for a total lockdown based on the numbers that we see today?
Well, let's just say right now it's very hard to tell. Yeah, because we're seeing the cases are rising up, and I think it's just because we are being a bit careless. Just like other diseases like Ebola, like HIV/AIDS, we should learn how to live with it. If we could protect ourselves against that, we should also learn how to protect ourselves against that. Because the thing is, people are the ones who have been flaunting and breaking rules. We're seeing people going to the clubs, until late. We're seeing so many people gathered in the same room. We're seeing people are the ones who are breaking the rules. Yeah, and if we could only just maintain that and learn how to not stay in the same room, put on your face mask, just carry out the measures we've been given, by who, I think everything will be okay. But right now, I think for our economy, I think it should stay open because we're losing a lot. And let's just face it.
Staying open, if staying open is the safest thing to do right now. Looping you in, Steve Kijana, you have looked around, you probably have, had experiences that are happening across different parts of the world. South Africa, the numbers are going up and up. The death toll is, something that you don't even want to speak about. Places Africa at that point, joining the rest of the world at 0.5, top 10. Of the cases, or maybe of the places of the countries that have the highest numbers recorded. And South Africa has equally tried this aspect of reopening, and they realize that it's not working and gone back to closing themselves down again. When we look at that, and we are recording 796 cases in a single day, does it speak volumes? Does it tell us that we need to rethink the strategies that we put on board?
Well, I really believe that we really need to rethink the strategies that we have, and I have a feeling that we got this wrong from day one, where the government really did not take. I remember some time ago we were speaking about how is this communication by the government to the people. I think these numbers are quite worrying, and although yes, we can say that we expect higher numbers with a larger amount of testing. But even if the testing is quite proportional to the kind of numbers that we're seeing, it is quite worrying because we are seeing now the numbers continuing to spread around the counties. Some of the counties that didn't have cases now have cases. And that tells us a lot about where we are as a nation, that there is now that community spreading. It is now the disease is now in the community. And unfortunately, the government is responsible for the negligence by the citizens. The government has been forefront of holding BBI rallies. By government, I mean
key government officials like Governor Oparanya, who is the head of COG. We have seen Eugene Wamalwa, who have been leading political rallies. We have also seen someone like Halwale, although who's probably an opposition person. But we've seen the government really leading in some of these violations. We saw the chairman of the ad hoc committee of Senate, thinking till late. And the kind of example that is being set by these people has created a certain question by the laymen or generally the citizens who probably don't have that much knowledge on COVID or how it spread, other than what they see on TV. And they're asking, what does the government know that we don't know? What do these leaders know that we do not know? Why are they so careless? Yeah, that because we have seen leaders actually wear masks, even as they address the press, they always address the press with the mask at their chin. We've seen the leaders not really very careful on some of these guidelines, including some of the topmost officials. So I think the government has really failed on, creating a certain confidence in the people and creating a certain level of awareness. And looking at countries like South Africa, who have now joined the top, and I think even Kenya has also been among the top 10 of countries with a high rise or rate of deaths, increase of deaths. I think we are not going in the right direction, and these numbers will continue to rise, of course. But I think it is time, probably, President Uhuru may consider not just giving similar measures like were done before, but I think right now, even if you give any curfew, any restriction, already the community is not really careful on these measures. So whatever measures he makes, they'll make not much change. So it is time that Uhuru, continues to reopen the economy, but they change how they communicate to the people.
All right, Kamado, the counties have been left with the brunt of ensuring that we are successful in this fight of COVID-19. But as you hear Kijana, just been pointing fingers and saying that, the leaders themselves have failed us hugely on how they've dealt with this. And yesterday, we had that session with the county governors, and, they're likely to meet President Uhuru Kenyatta in a meeting that was scheduled for today, then rescheduled to Monday. What really do we expect? How much of an effort, how much of a success do we expect at the level of the counties? Almost all the counties now getting to that point where they register a case or more.
First of all, I'd just like to disagree a bit with my brother when he said that people are having press conferences, they have their masks at the chin. You see, at the end of the day, like, how am I supposed to communicate with you if on NGO and you're on the other side of the station? Sometimes this is all in the mind. We can't be selling fear, and I think that's the problem that we're having with Kenyans. We need to sit down, make them understand, what Corona is, and show them statistics, as opposed to selling fear, showing that the president is speaking with a mask. It's a travesty, actually. We really don't need to do that. Yeah, and when it comes to the counties, I think for now it will be very hard for them to handle, because we've seen most of them can't even deal with the monies that they are allocated, especially with the health and everything. You see, graft is really big still, and only a few government governors have actually had to repent for their sins or have taken the axe, and it's going to be very hard, especially with a lot of impunity and once they come to the Senate community, it doesn't matter. It just depends on what side you're on. The best side wins. The best people are favored. So I think the problem is in the leadership first, as opposed to them dealing with the policies. Yeah. As I keep on, we tackle things from behind, or we just do things in a very different way.
And now that you brought. Yes, and now that you brought the allocation of funds, of course, them crying foul and saying that, there needs to be more budget allocated so that they're able to successfully deal with COVID-19. And as we talk about the budget, we know very well that there's been a stalemate, a standoff that continues to persist on the county revenue sharing today. And some of the key things that have been captured as what could be instigating this is the bid to control huge budgets, fear of backlash, and a 2022 succession politics. the unseen factors that are behind the protracted fight of the formula. So, really, Steve Kijana, at the level of the county, or the Senate, sorry, the fourth session, but still we cannot be able to address this. Do you suppose that we got into devolution having not figured things out, and now we are bearing the brunt of, just something, getting something or swallowing something, yet we were not ready for that?
I quite agree with you that us kind of venturing into devolution, it was an idea that was...
Yes? I cannot quite hear you well, Steve. Maybe we should loop in Kamanu first.
Yeah.
Yes, was devolution a bad idea, or did we get into it having not known what exactly to expect and how to deal with the issues that are grappling, or we are grappling with today?
Devolution is the best thing that has ever happened to Kenya. Let's face it. We've seen the opening up of roads. We've seen so many hospitals coming up. We've seen a lot of infrastructural changes, you see. But so as they're good, there's also bad. And as I said before, the worst thing is just bad governance, in-house fighting. You see, we have members of the county assembly fighting because, they're not, pockets are not lined up enough. And that's always a problem. You see, for me, I think devolution was good. It came at a very good time. It's also giving us a chance to learn. Because as we stand right now, the national government can't do much for everyone. If it's given the task to do everything, it's not going to work, because we have seen it since independence. In the past few years is the time we've seen the spike of infrastructural changes, just great policies. I think it's a good thing that has happened to our country.
Well, and in most cases, you'll find that politics will find its way in issues that are being discussed. And in this one, it's not a special case, because we've seen politics setting in. We're talking about some of the senators looking at their interests for 2022. But also, we've seen the name of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Right Honorable Raila Odinga finding its way on this matter hugely. And begging the question as to just how much of politics we play, and how negative or positive is it to come and influence the issues or the directions and the policies that issues are going to take. For instance, this case, the likes of, Senator Ladama Olekina, the likes of Mutula Kalonzo Jr. or Kilonzo Jr., arguing that they need to impeach the Senate Speaker on how he's handled this issue. I mean, does it have to take that turn? Does it have to go to that level before we even get a solution, Steve?
Well, I think before I delve into that, I was of the feeling that, first of all, we got into devolution at the right time, but in a different manner. What happened in the 2005 constitution is that there was devolution, but that devolution was quite gradual. The way the counties were set up is that we had district assemblies, and we had those 47 districts being managed in a different manner, where the autonomy will be gained continuously. But now, looking into this issue of the Senate, I think the Senate Speaker has really failed, being the person who is the face of the Senate. He has really failed to bring the Senate together to come up with a solution, because being at the fourth session and still not getting a solution, him adjourning sittings, I think the reason why he's doing that is probably he has a way or a direction, of course, a direction probably from above, which he expects this discussion to take, and probably it's not taken. Because we have also looked at this issue of politics at play. We have seen the issue of William Ruto being brought in, where he has tried to come now in and be the voice of the marginalized county, which was supposed to lose quite some funds. He has tried to come up through his allies. You have seen his allies, the likes of Susan Kehika, the likes of Murkomen, really vocal on the issue of any county losing money, because they opine that even as we move forward, we should not deny, or we should not reduce any amount of money from the counties which had more. I think they felt that we are now we cannot continue to demarginalize as we marginalize others. And it is a sentiment that I share that, you cannot start, giving less funds to those counties that were given more funds for the purpose of probably empowering them to come up and reach to the level of infrastructure and development of other counties. But I think with this issue, there has been an idea that I thought will probably go so well that Irungu Kang'ata was fronting.
Yeah.
That it's the third basis allocation formula or the second basis. Of course, the third basis gave less attention to population than the second, but it still had higher one of, I think, 20%. Mm-hmm. And I think that the way Irungu Kang'ata was saying it, that is it possible for us to now first suspend implementation of whichever formula they will approve, and of course, once BBI comes to pass, of course, we expect BBI to give more funds to counties, probably an increase to 40% from 15. That means even with the new third basis or fourth basis allocation formula, no county will lose because there will be generally more money given to counties. I think if they went that way, they could really be going in the right direction. Because one thing that we agree is that we cannot proceed with the previous formulas because the Constitution in Article 217 requires them to review the formula every 5 years. I think it is time to review it in a way that makes sure no county loses, especially as we go to BBI, because whichever counties will lose at this point, you will expect them to, of course, be very against the government and the BBI process.
Oh, yes, that continues to be debated next week on Tuesday, the 28th. So we'll be there to update you on what happens. As we get to wind up, the last in about 3 minutes or so, we cannot go without noting the underneath or the underlying issues that are happening as we continue to battle with COVID-19. The shadow pandemics that we have within the house setups, within the social setups, and rape cases are on the rise. Kamano, what has happened to our morals as a society?
First of all, I think every time, as time passes, I think we forget that COVID is here to stay. I think we think it's not real because we've been seeing so many messages and so many conspiracy theories about how the government or the people above the New World Order is doing this to redirect funds, to reset the economy. And that's not the case. Yeah. The case is we have an issue right now. We have a global pandemic. It has happened before. History is repeating itself. We had the Spanish flu in 1918, which everyone went out to celebrate after they thought it went, and then that's the second wave hit them the most. I think mostly we should learn from our past experiences and learn from history. The same way we can't pick and choose what we choose to learn from history. And we've seen with so many pandemics, and I think Kenya or Africa was a bit more prepared than the developing countries because we deal with Ebola as we have the screening points in every airport, and we were a bit prepared for this as opposed to other countries, the developed countries, and they were a bit shocked. And I remember they painted an image of how we'll have dead bodies all over the streets, and probably it's because of immune. I stand corrected, but I just think it's a matter of negligence upon our people because we think that you don't have someone that directly that has been affected by this, so we think it's not real. So moving forward, I think we should just follow the guidelines that have been given by the Ministry of Health because they're doing a very, very good job. And as I see also they've increased the testing. I only have one issue, and my only issue is the intravenous testing where they put the nose slits through the nose. It's a bit, I think we have other methods of testing, which is the rapid test. I think they should also, because if you're trying to get a big sample, that's the best way to do. Zimbabwe is doing it, and they're doing about 5,000 samples. That was last month. I think by now scaled it up to 10,000. We are doing a very good job, but there's a lot of improvement to be done.
All right, that's a good report right there. But all the same, some of these activities are ongoing, and the society chooses to be silent. What would be your take as we get to wind up, Kijana Steve, on these cases that have been reported and where we are headed, and the numerous social injustices that are ongoing right there as the global fraternity deals with COVID-19?
Linda, I think it's quite an unfortunate situation that we are in as a country, because 5,000 being a number of rape cases from March to now is quite a high number. It is quite even a worrying number. And of course, we have also seen a lot of domestic violence, or especially gender-based violence. For example, we saw recently a female police officer shooting her husband over giving house help 50 shillings. It just tells you the kind of trauma that is being faced by family, where the families, this COVID-19 situation has caused a lot of trauma, a lot of mental health issues. And that is why we have seen a shoot in 7% of violence cases all around. But what we see is that these violence cases are not mostly social or in communities. They are mostly in households. And that tells you that the government has really also failed in addressing the kind of mental health issues that are being, happening there down at the family. Of course, we've seen them, saying that they have created mental health checkpoints. But of course, very few people are going to visit those points. People continue to suffer internally. And of course, this issue of rape cases, of course, comes with idleness. Of course, we have our children not really being idle. Of course, being very idle around, not going to school. And of course, we have some of the people, taking advantage. We've also had about 50,000 pregnancies of young school-going girls. So I think this situation that has been caused by COVID, first of all, of course, is a social issue that has been caused by COVID. But I wish the church, being the moral defender in this country, as we expect it to be, should really come out strongly and, condemn such acts. And really, I think it is the time the church comes out. I think the church should not just come fighting about reopening and all that. It is time the church tells us, do they really care about the society that they minister to? Is it time for the church to now come and address those social issues? Go and speak to those, school-going girls. Tell them about how to be careful. Go and talk to those young men who are really perpetrating such injustices. Condemn them for that. Because we have seen the government taking quite a strong approach and, warning chiefs that, if any schoolgirl is impregnated in your area, certain action will be taken. I think that is not the selling fear anymore, as George Kamanu has said. I think Kenyans no longer buy fear. So I think it's time the church, which is the moral public protector, comes out very strongly and condemns some of these things. And of course, the society needs to now have a conversation about these issues so that we can, I was speaking to a certain principal who was worried that once schools reopen, she may find only half of the students coming back. So I think even as we talk, we have this big talk of when will we reopen? Is it September? Is it January? What will we have children to reopen schools, or will all our schoolgirls be impregnated and others raped, and of course undergoing a lot of trauma? So I think we really need to address those social issues. And as a country, I think we also need to get deeper into prayer and of course, follow these directives more keenly. And I think the government should really step up and speak to the people in a different way so that we can adhere to these measures and conquer this virus.
All right. Thank you so much, Kijana Steve. You did not tell us the name of your party, but it's okay. We'll get to learn about some other. What's it again?
Empowerment and Liberation Party.
Yes, Empowerment and Inspiration Party. Thank you so much for the great. Yes. All right, thank you so much, George Kamanu, who's a philanthropist and a politician. Thank you so much for the great insights. And Steve Kijana, yes, the party leader you've had there, Empowerment and Inspiration Party. It was great having you this morning. It's time now that we cross over to a different segment altogether. We'll get to see you some other time, that is on Monday, as we discuss or respond some more on matters, current affairs. Remember, you also have the chance to drop us your comments and tell us what it is that you want us to discuss. And most importantly, at this point, when we are going to Matters Entertainment, you can request the song that you want us to play for you, and DJ T1 and DJ X will gladly do that for you. It's a disc joker experience, or disc jockey, or whichever way you want to call it, moment, and indeed a time that you do not want to miss out. For the next 1 hour, you will be fully and totally entertained, courtesy of Nancy. So we cross over to the DJs as we get to enjoy some beat of music. Thank you so much for keeping me company all the way. Crossing over to you, DJs.